In a bold and unexpected public appearance today, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell delivered a speech that not only praised the legacy of former President Ronald Reagan, but also delivered sharp and unambiguous criticism of former President Donald Trump. McConnell's remarks, made at the Peace Through Strength Awards ceremony hosted by the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation, set the political world buzzing, particularly because of the subtle yet telling comparison he drew between the two Republican leaders. While the speech was initially expected to be a moment of honoring Reagan's legacy and reflecting on his leadership during the Cold War, it quickly became a platform for McConnell to openly draw distinctions between Reagan's statesmanship and Trump's divisive approach to American politics. In this video, we'll break down McConnell's speech, analyze the striking differences he highlighted between Reagan and Trump, and delve into the implications of his remarks on the future of the Republican Party. As McConnell, now 82, faces growing health concerns and political battles, his words have taken on added significance. Mitch McConnell's speech, a mixed moment of praise and criticism. Mitch McConnell's appearance at the Peace Through Strength Awards ceremony was far from ordinary. The 82-year-old Senate leader, who has made headlines in recent years for his occasional brain glitches and growing cognitive concerns, stepped up to the podium to deliver a speech that was as much about honoring Reagan's legacy as it was about positioning himself as a counterpoint to the current direction of the Republican Party under Donald Trump's influence. The speech began with a warm tribute to Ronald Reagan. McConnell's tone was respectful, and he shared fond memories of Reagan's leadership style, which he said had deeply influenced his own political career. McConnell echoed the admiration that many Republicans still feel for Reagan, a man who led the country through the end of the Cold War, forged vital alliances, and articulated a vision of American exceptionalism that resonated both domestically and internationally. McConnell stated, "I believe in American promise and in the power of alliances. I make no apologies for those beliefs, and I trace them directly to the example of our 40th president. President Reagan's leadership was a source both of professional wisdom and personal inspiration to me, and I suspect the same is true of so many of you here today." For McConnell, Reagan was the gold standard of leadership, a president who knew that America's strength was built not only on its military capabilities, but also on the power of partnerships and diplomacy. He spoke of Reagan's unwavering commitment to peace through strength, particularly in the face of the Soviet threat, and how Reagan understood that American leadership on the world stage was essential to maintaining global stability. However, as the speech continued, McConnell shifted gears, and this is where the drama unfolded. The minority leader began to criticize the current direction of the Republican Party, specifically targeting Trump without naming him directly. McConnell used Reagan's ideals as a backdrop to critique those within the party who, in his view, were undermining the principles of global leadership and alliances that Reagan championed. McConnell's words were pointed and deliberate. Some now question America's own role at the center of these force-multiplying institutions and partnerships with the party Ronald Reagan once led so capably. It is increasingly fashionable to suggest that the sort of global leadership he modeled is no longer America's place. But let's be absolutely clear. America will not be made great again by those who are content to manage our decline. This was a clear shot at Donald Trump and his America First rhetoric, which many see as isolating the United States from its global allies and prioritizing unilateral action over multilateral cooperation. McConnell, perhaps more than anyone else in the Republican Party, has seen firsthand the consequences of Trump's brand of leadership, and he made it clear that he believes it has left America weaker on the world stage. The phrase, "manage our decline," was especially loaded. McConnell, who has spent decades in Washington, was not merely voicing concerns about Trump's leadership. He was suggesting that the former president's approach to governance, especially in foreign policy, has actively contributed to America's weakening position globally. The contrast between Reagan's robust internationalism and Trump's America First isolationism was impossible to ignore. The role of alliances in McConnell's critique of Trump. The sharpest contrast McConnell drew between Reagan and Trump was in their approach to international alliances. Reagan understood that the United States could not secure its interests alone. The collapse of the Soviet Union was not just the result of American military strength, but also the result of a concerted effort to forge and maintain relationships with European allies, NATO, and other global partners. McConnell emphasized this idea when he said, "America will not be made great again by those who are content to manage our decline. We will need to bring back into focus another lesson of President Reagan's leadership, and that is the link between capability and credibility." For McConnell, Reagan's approach was predicated on both military power and the political will to lead, often in cooperation with allies. Trump's foreign policy, by contrast, has been marked by a go-it-alone mentality. His approach to NATO, his skepticism toward international agreements like the Paris Climate Accord and the Iran nuclear deal, and his fluctuating stance on global threats like North Korea and Russia have often left America isolated. The critique continued, with McConnell pointing to specific crises, such as the war in Ukraine, which he suggested Trump's rhetoric had complicated. McConnell's message was clear. Trump's inclination to abandon international commitments for the sake of short-term political gain was detrimental not only to the United States, but to global stability. The subtle attack on Trump's America First philosophy. By invoking Reagan's belief in American strength through alliances, McConnell laid bare the contradictions in Trump's foreign policy. In McConnell's view, Trump's America First approach isn't about strengthening America, but about retreating from the responsibilities that have made America the world leader it is today. McConnell's words were a call to Republicans to return to the global leadership model that Reagan once embodied, rather than embracing the insular, often erratic policies of the Trump era. While McConnell's remarks were undeniably critical of Trump, they were also a recognition of the deep divisions within the Republican Party. McConnell has long been a pragmatist, and his criticism of Trump was not just ideological, but tactical. He knows that for the GOP to remain a viable political force on the national stage, it must reconcile the strains of populism that Trump has unleashed with the traditional conservative values that Reagan represented. The contrast between Reagan and Trump, a personal reflection. In a segment of his speech, McConnell made a personal reflection on what Reagan meant to him. He spoke about how Reagan's leadership provided both professional wisdom and personal inspiration, something that he said was essential in navigating the complexities of American governance. He described Reagan as a president who understood the importance of diplomacy and alliances in preserving peace and preventing war. By contrast, McConnell's reflection on Trump was less about personal inspiration and more about practical concerns. While Reagan's principles of strength and cooperation guided McConnell's political career, Trump's approach, marked by volatility and unpredictability, seemed to offer little in terms of steady leadership for the country. Mitch McConnell's public criticism of Donald Trump in today's speech is nothing short of a political bombshell. As one of the most influential Republicans in the country, McConnell's remarks carry weight, and they signal a deeper rift within the GOP about the direction it should take in the post-Trump era. By comparing Trump unfavorably to Reagan, McConnell has drawn a line in the sand. He has positioned himself as a defender of traditional conservative values and a proponent of internationalism, two ideals that have been significantly challenged under Trump's populist reign. But beyond the personal critique of Trump, McConnell's comments reflect a larger ideological struggle within the Republican Party. Can it return to the principles of Reagan, or will it continue down the path set by Trump? For many Republicans, this speech will be a defining moment. It offers a stark choice: embrace the internationalist vision of Reagan or continue to follow Trump's America First path, which has seen the party fracture and lose its former global standing. McConnell, despite his health struggles and advancing age, has once again proven that he is a key player in the future of American politics, particularly within the GOP. The question remains, will his vision of the Republican Party be embraced by its base, or is Trump's influence still too strong to overcome? As the country heads into another election cycle, McConnell's public remarks have added fuel to the fire of a Republican Party at a crossroads. The world will be watching as the GOP decides what kind of future it wants to build, both for itself and for the nation.